This week on Capitol Hill, Twitter and Facebook faced a grilling from lawmakers. At least they showed up. Outrageously, Google refused to send an equivalent representative, insulting you, the American people, by offering an empty chair instead of accountability. Now, before we get into this topic, as normal, my disclosure, my wife works at Facebook, but I have my own opinion, and here it is. The reason people are worried about anti-conservative bias is that these tech companies are so big and powerful. If there was more competition, it would be less of an issue. That's true not just in tech, but throughout our economy. So let's start with a clear principle. No one should be overmighty. Not the government, not the unions, not business, and certainly not big tech. We need a pro-market, pro-competition revolution. Step one, break up big tech by reversing the power grabs they've been allowed to make. Amazon must sell its cloud computing service, AWS, and its own branded products business. Facebook must sell WhatsApp and Instagram, and Google must sell YouTube and Android. But even then, they'll be too dominant, as will many other companies in other sectors. So we need step two, a new antitrust system, laid out in my new book, Positive Populism, that is a disincentive to dominance and a force for real competition. Candice, you pick it up. Bias, big tech, you've been right in the thick of this.
I have been, and I don't know if you saw it, but on Capitol Hill, Jack Dorsey was in fact questioned about my censorship on Twitter in comparison to Sarah Zhang tweets. For those of you that don't know, I basically retweeted exactly what the New York Times editor Sarah Zhang tweeted, but I removed the word white people and replaced it with black people. And within minutes, my account got locked down and I was banned.
Sorry, we can see it now.
And I was actually quite calm about it. Charlie tweeted something and it went...
I was a little upset.
Right, Charlie was very upset. I was like, I think I'm banned from Twitter, and it went viral, and they immediately reinstated my account and said it was a mistake. When Jack was asked at the hearing, he responded by saying it was a mistake. And these mistakes do tend to happen to conservatives. It's quite interesting that Sarah Zhang had tweeted that for years, and there was no punishment to her account. But me saying that towards black people, there was an instant punishment. So here's what I think is actually happening. I actually don't think Jack Dorsey is a bad guy behind closed doors. I think what happens is that these people, think about where he's based. He's in San Francisco. I've walked around San Francisco before. Every person there has got blue hair, pink hair. It's a very liberal city, right? So if you are hiring people that are just
I don't have any hair.
Right?
Just fact
if you had hair, it would be blue. Okay. But so what happens is they hire people that are just out of college, so they've already gone through the brainwash, the mass brainwashing that takes place in college, and they are social justice warriors. They get hired, and it's not Jack that's pressing the "this tweet is wrong" button. It's somebody that he's hired. So how do you undo that when your company is that large? Twitter is a campus.
Yes.
How do you undo that when it's gone too far?
I think the real issue is this.
I would love to be banned from Twitter.
Hey,
like, just completely banned.
Martyrdom.
What,
Jack, if you're watching,
well, so you never have to do it.
so much time and aggravation. And
maybe
it would
you
be
can
fantastic.
Maybe, like Mitt Romney talked about self-deportation, maybe you can just like self-banning.
I could self-ban. It's a good idea.
There you go.
Jack, if you
So, Tessa, I just wanted to bring it out to the sort of broader question of big business. Bernie and other progressives, they make this argument about the rigged economy. And I do think one part of it is these companies just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
No question about it, it's rigged. And even,
not just tech.
Yeah, no, all the way across the board, like you're talking about in the book. Let's just not talk about tech. Let's talk about health. Let's talk about insurance. Let's talk about across the board and even social media. And just to Candace's point, I really want to thank you for bringing up that tweet with Sarah, because the same thing, as you know, Steve, happened with me when I made a comment about how Americans should receive benefits opposed to non-citizens. I lost my contract from the Sanders campaign movement. You never hear about that stuff. You never hear about how the black lady lost the contract, lost the job immediately from the board members.
Okay, steady on, Charlie.
Yeah, and I didn't know you then, but when I saw you put that tweet out to say, let's just do a comparison. If Sarah did the same thing, and she said things way worse, all I said was, as a military veteran, you know, I think that benefits should go to Americans first. I was called racist. I was called everything in the book, and was completely unemployed. Let's just unemploy the black single mother. Where Sarah got, not only did she get a chance to stay on the job, she was also verified and promoted, profiled up as a hero. So when we talk about rigged, let's really talk about it. Let's talk about the right. Let's talk about the left. Let's talk about the hypocrisy on the left. I'm a living witness that it happens. And let's break it all up, which you talk about in the book, Positive Populism.
So I want to say that
on
that question of breaking it all up. So conservatives typically don't like the idea of regulation. But do you think that they can get comfortable with regulation that is aiming at just creating more competition in the market?
If you're breaking a company up, I would assume you're doing that under antitrust laws. And if there's a case to be made there, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, breaking them up because we're mad about conservative bias seems strange to me.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay, but like, but Amazon having to sell its cloud computing because of conservative bias?
Power. No, absolutely not. Because of the market power. So, for example, they're now making
I get that.
products that are stopping competitors.
Okay, but my other concern is, and I know that you're concerned about China, right?
Yeah.
China's companies, Tencent, Alibaba, they're not going to shrink. They are going to grow, and they certainly don't share any American values. And I think we have to think about this before we start going down this path.
Okay, last word, Charlie.
The most important thing, Amazon shouldn't be getting government subsidies. They get subsidies on the local level, the state level. They use the Postal Service to subsidize their whole empire. Not to mention, we as taxpayers are about to give them a $100 billion contract from the Department of Defense for their cloud computing software. So before we go through the FTC, Sherman Antitrust Act, and use government force, which as a libertarian free market conservative, I'm really hesitant to do that, Steve, because they could do it against our businesses too. They'll go after the oil companies.
Conservatives, yes, they should. Conservatives shouldn't be in favour of monopolies.
But they're not. Are they a
They're
monopoly?
so dominant, they basically are.
The best regulation, the best way to go after monopolies is entrepreneurs.
No, the best, I would say
Google are also
competition.
colluding.
Hang on,
That's the
competition is the best antidote to regulation.
Without a doubt. And what's the best way to get competition? VC-funded entrepreneurs.
And VC funding is through the roof.
But what's happening is that they, rather than, as I say in the book, rather than what they used to do, which is to sort of want to grow and be successful, now the big aim is to be bought by one of the existing companies. It's
but
really
that's what
changing.
entrepreneurs want to do. Like if you have a new medical device, you want Johnson & Johnson to buy your business. Like you create new products so that you can sell it, and then you can maybe then create another new product.
Sector after sector, you have these giant. It's basically an oligopolistic, rigged economy. I'm so sorry. If you want more, read it in my book.